For those who do not know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Renganathan. You can call me Ray, okay? R-A-Y, okay? So I'm basically a trainer with data and AI specialty, and working as a data specialist for one of the service providers in Malaysia. Okay, so it's good to have you all in this session. Welcome. So hopefully by the end of this session, all of you will be convinced and also prepared to go for this certification. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. And if you have any questions, do ask in the chat window. I'll try to answer. But for now, as I mentioned earlier, you should have the two documents that was shared with you in the WhatsApp, which is this whiz card and the sample questions. Okay, just make sure that you have both of these in your view right now, because most of our discussion is going to be based on this. Okay, so please do make sure you have both of these in hand, because we are going to basically look at this throughout these 2 hours. Okay, so just get ready with those details here. Now, I'm just going to show you the exam, right? The exam page. So this is the link. I'm going to give you the link in the chat window. This is the link to the exam description, AI900 Microsoft Azure AI Fundamentals. So for those who have attended my session, I believe you are familiar with this site. The second one would be the reference page, which I would strongly recommend for you to go through as well. Preparation guide by Stanislas. Okay, so this is a very good preparation space where you will be able to not only look at the 5 different modules, right? 5 different modules for your preparation. You can also download and view the slides if you want to. That will describe all the 5 objectives of that exam in much detail than what I've shown you in class before. So preparation guide for AI900 Microsoft AI Fundamentals by Stanislas. Okay. Then a few pages that I believe will be very important for you to look at as well. I'm just going to share all this in the chat window so that you can go to them. That is to answer the questions related to responsible AI, and also to know what services are available. Okay, so I have the AI demos, some examples of services is where we're going to look at here. So these are all the different reference pages that you should be familiar with. Okay, so starting with the exam, right? So the exam will have 5 different scope. The first one being describing AI workload and considerations. The second one, which will be the highest portion here, between 30 to 35%, describe fundamental principles of machine learning, ML. Third will be describing the computer vision workloads, describing the natural language processing, and the conversational AI workload. So these are the 5 different areas that you will be tested on. And if you notice the sample questions, it's broken down into those 5 categories of 5 objectives that I've just mentioned. Okay, so you'll have 5 categories. the wish card is also organized by those 5 categories here. Okay, the wish card is also organized by 5 categories here, where the first category is in this particular box. Second category is blue. Okay, the machine learning portion, all this is in blue. The third one, in terms of computer vision, is in green. So you see the green boxes, those are all pertaining to computer vision. You will see the one in orange is for natural language processing. And the last but not least, you have the red, which touches on the conversational AI. Okay, so it's all color coded so that you will be able to see, thanks to WizLab. This is from WizLab actually. Basically, we are looking at the different areas. So for module 1, okay, the first objective, most of it will be touching on this aspect here. Let me just quickly show you what is it that they're going to touch on. So module 1, the main idea is for you to have an overall picture of what is being offered in the AI services. Okay, so I'm just going to have the chat window open as well in case if you have any questions. Okay, so you need to know what are the services. Okay, what are the services or workloads that is going to be using the capabilities that is available in general and specifically on Azure. What are the services that you will be using? What is the implication of those services? And how do we go about adhering to the responsible AI principles? Okay, so this being a introductory or fundamental exam, you don't have to go in depth about the calculations and all that. Okay, don't worry too much about calculations that you may have come across pertaining to AI. You don't have to worry about coding because you won't be tested on codings. You will be tested on the basic principles only, right? Basic principles only. So do take note that for the first objective, which is the describe AI workloads and considerations, okay, you have very limited scope. That is, you need to know when I say anomaly detection, what does it mean? Machine learning, what does it mean? Okay, then natural language processing, computer vision, and conversational AI. So what are the use cases for each one of these? Okay, so if I were to tell you, right, if I were to tell you or give you a scenario, let's say the scenario is going to be about detection of credit card, right? Misuse of credit card or fraudulent transaction. What category will that fall under? Maybe you can try to answer in the chat window. You have 5 different categories here, right? Machine learning, anomaly detection, natural language processing, computer vision. So fraudulent credit card transaction. This will be under anomaly detection, right? So most of you are getting the right answer here. Anomaly detection. Okay. Facial recognition. If I say I need to do facial recognition to see whether you're wearing a mask or not, That will fall under which of these 5 categories? Okay, so the detection of your face and whether or not you're wearing a mask requires vision. So you have computer vision used for that purpose. Okay? Computer vision used for that purpose. Now, if I were to ask you to perform translation, I need to translate from one language to another as I speak. When I speak, I want it to translate to, let's say, what do you call, a Thai language, for example. So that requires natural language processing. Okay, natural language processing. So basically, your questions are going to pertain to these different services. And most of the questions pertaining to this first module will come from responsible AI. So I just want to know, do you all still remember what are the 6 principles? Okay, 6 principles that you need to know. Very important for you to know. If you have not, if you have forgotten, let's say, in terms of what are the 6 principles in use, please refer back to the responsible AI principles. I'm just going to show you where you can get this information. Okay, responsible AI principle. So there are a total of 6 principles. And for those who attended my sessions, you would have seen the video pertaining to the 6 principles in use. So you have fairness, reliability and safety, privacy and security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. Okay, so the easy way to remember all this is that when we talk about fairness, remember biasness, being biased, let's say in terms of gender biasness, race biasness, religious biasness, biasness towards the processing of certain criteria like gender inequality in human resource systems. All this is pertaining to fairness. So sometimes people tend to confuse fairness with inclusiveness. So I do notice that a lot of students, when they're given a scenario, you have this confusion between inclusiveness and fairness. Inclusiveness is talking about people of different representation, maybe the LGBT community, right? People with disabilities. And when we try to meet their requirements, that is called as inclusiveness. Getting all members of the society to participate in the development and use of the systems. So this is inclusiveness. Okay, so common confusion is between these two, fairness and inclusiveness. Okay, so to remember fairness, think about biasness. Is there any biasness in the system? Inclusiveness, think about all the different members of the society, right? For those who have seen the video, I believe you still remember the person who's presenting in the video itself is of non-binary experience. And so basically, it covers those community, minorities, and also in terms of including those with disabilities. as part of the development and use. Then you have reliability and safety. So when you think about reliability and safety, always remember about, right? Always remember about autonomous cars, let's say, how it may impact, right? Autonomous cars, in order for it to work, it has to be reliably processing all that input. We need to make sure there's some safety measures put in place for it to work. Otherwise, your life may be in danger. So anything that may endanger your life requires high reliability in terms of health systems and all that is basically under this category. Okay. Then you have transparency. Okay. So transparency is when you are able to explain or highlight to the users of your system, and you're able to explain why that particular AI model works and how does it work. What is the accuracy level? So we must tell beforehand. So let's say you have a system that detects COVID, right? COVID-19. Okay. So COVID-19, and basically you have this situation where you have to define the effectiveness of that test. So you must be truthful. You must say, okay, this test is accurate for the following scenarios. The accuracy level is so and so, 85%, 90%, and so on, so that people are aware. And you must be able to explain what exactly was used to come up with the prediction, for example, so that people are aware, especially those who are operating the system. Maybe not to the end customer, but those operators of the system should know what is the limitation of that. So to remember transparency, always remember explain. Explain. Transparency is explain something, right? Explain how it works, explain to the user what is the limitation. So usually people get confused between transparency and accountability. Transparency means I explain what's the limitation. Accountability is I take responsibility of those actions. I take responsibility of how my AI system works. If it does anything wrong, then who's supposed to be accountable? The person who is created, who has created and operated that AI system. Can we go and put the AI system in jail? Cannot. So accountability is, always remember, responsibility. Right? Say that I am responsible. Accountability, responsibility. Just remember, right? Transparency, explain. Accountability, responsibility. Right? Then privacy and security. Okay, privacy and security is basically going to be touching on those elements of control or use of data that may be touching on the privacy of a particular user. So they must have control over the data. Privacy and security is about managing data, managing the system so that it is not compromised. So these are the areas that you're going to look at. So hopefully you have seen the questions related to these topics. You notice that most of it is pertaining to this area which I just mentioned. Okay, so I believe all of you have tried this. So I purposely did not put any answers inside here because I want you to use this for your learning purpose, right? So related to what I just mentioned just now, okay? So go through the questions later once this session is over and think back at what I've just mentioned, what I've just mentioned. So just let's have a look at this one question and see whether it fulfills the requirement of anomaly detection or not. Okay, let's try one question since we are already on this page. The second question here. Forecasting housing prices based on historical data is anomaly detection. True or false? Okay, so just now I just mentioned to you about anomaly detection. So this is false, huh? Okay. Forecasting housing based on historical data is more of regression. Okay, it's more of regression. Okay, how about this one? Identifying suspicious sign in. Okay, so this is basically yes. Okay, so this will be yes because why? We are detecting something that is of a different pattern, unusual pattern, deviation from usual pattern. So that itself has given away the answer. Okay. So third question, predicting whether a patient will develop diabetes based on patient's medical history. Okay. So this is not anomaly detection. This is classification. Either they are positive or negative. Either they are likely to get or not likely to get. So this is more of classification. Okay, nah? Right? So you need to get all three correct for this to be counted as true. So each question is counted as a whole. Even if you have partial answer, they will not calculate the marks for that partial answer. Just remember that. Okay. So how about this one? So most of your questions, right? Most of your questions will be pertaining to this kind of scenario. They give you what is the workload. They give you what is the principle, where then they ask you which of the principle is in use. So handling of unusual or missing value. Which one you think? Okay, so people usually confuse between these two, privacy and security, reliability and safety. So it's between these two. The other two is not part of this option. Okay, so people confuse between privacy and security, reliability and safety. Okay, so handling the incomplete data. If it is incomplete, it shouldn't handle. It should do away with that. So this is more to. Ayo, okay, I'm supposed to just highlight that one. I'm not sure why it cannot come up. Okay, delete. I just wanted to highlight that word. Okay, that's it. Reliability and safety. More of reliability. Okay, let's do one last one here. So before we move on to the next module. So most of your questions will be pertaining to this. An automated chat to answer questions. What type of workload is this? So this is a drag and drop kind of question. So in the actual exam, this will be drag and drop. Okay, chat conversational AI. Whether a photo contains a person, computer vision. Whether a review is positive or negative, natural language. Okay, so this is basically the area that you will look at for the first module. Okay, that's what the first module is going to be about. Okay, so far? Okay, so second module is the one that is going to have the highest number of questions, highest number of questions. And in this case, you need to familiarize yourself with a few terminology. First will be, what is machine learning? What is machine learning? Okay, so how is machine learning different from other programming aspects? How is it different from other programming aspects? So machine learning basically works by looking at the data and coming up, okay, looking at the data and coming up with the definition, okay, looking at data and coming up with definitions of rules that will be used to predict the outcome. Okay, so machine learning is basically going to look at your data, and based on the data, it will feed it into an algorithm from which it will learn to look at the pattern and use that pattern to predict the needed outcome. Okay, needed outcome. So you need to familiarize yourself with the terminology and how do we go about developing those solutions. Okay, so I believe if for those who attended my session, you would have seen the use of automated machine learning, the machine learning designer to have a look at what is the code development that you're going to use, the use of pipelines, okay, to create the visual aspect of machine learning algorithm use, and how we can manage each one of those elements. So you need to familiarize yourself with the type of machine learning, which is supervised, unsupervised, reinforced learning, okay, reinforced learning, and we need to look at in terms of what are the potential type of algorithms used for supervised, unsupervised. Supervised, you have regression and classification. Regression and classification. So regression, if you still recall, is when you need to do, okay, some correlation. Regression will be used when we want to perform some correlation of data as compared to some other, right? Some other conditions that you've given. Okay, like just now, one of the question was asking about housing, house price based on maybe location, based on the address, based on the current price, based on the loan rate. All this will be taken into account to predict what's the price going to be, or what the price will be given a particular situation. So you will have the regression used for that purpose, and each of these algorithms will have some kind of measurement. So you need to know which measurement is in use. Root mean square error, mean absolute error, relative absolute error, coefficient and determination as part of the values that will be used for the purpose of looking at the effectiveness of that model. So always remember, for example, the root mean squared error, the lesser the error, the better it is. Root mean squared error, the lower it is, the better the outcome. We want to reduce the error. Okay, so like this, you can see that it is going to be closer to the model value. There means less error. As it goes further, you can see it starts to deviate from that pattern. So the error rate here will be higher, here lower. When it falls below a range also, it deviates. So you know, okay, from this range to this range, you will have high confidence of high confidence of the outcome, the detection here. Okay, so you need to know which of these parameters are used. For classification, we always use this one. This one is called confusion matrix. Okay, what's the use of confusion matrix? To confuse people. Okay, no, right? So confusion matrix is basically used to identify, okay? So confusion matrix, the idea is to identify, okay, identify. Let me just bring this over so that you can see clearer. Okay. So you have to always remember, okay, always remember that when we talk about classification, we need to know this measurement that will be in use and how these values will contribute to the effectiveness of your model. Okay, effectiveness of your model. So this one, I did mention to those who attended my session, something wrong with this page. This should be true negative. This is not TP. This is true negative. This is true positive. So please do make sure you change it. This is true negative. This is true positive. Okay. So which one you must always detect first when we talk about confusion matrix? For those who attended my session before, you should know by heart right now. When you see this diagram, what's the first thing you must notice? Which label? The predicted label. Okay, so you must always look at the predicted. Predicted one means P, positive. Okay, straight away you must detect what is the labeling that you're going to use. So just to show you back this one, let me go to the labeling here. All right. Okay, so we have seen how this one is going to work. Okay, so whenever we see the condition, we must always look at the predicted. Mark the predicted first. Okay, so whether it's up or at the side, in that which card they gave predicted up here, predicted label, true label. In this they give this side here. Okay, always look for predicted. If predicted is 1, this is positive. Positive. If predicted is 0, this is negative. This is negative. Okay. Then you look at the actual. If it is the same as predicted, then this is true. If it is not same as predicted, then it is false. Same goes for this one. If it is not the same, then this is false. And this is true. Okay, so positive, true positive, positive, false positive, negative, false negative, because not the same. Negative, true negative, because it's the same. What is predicted and what is the actual one is same, so true. You understand, right? So true positive means it correctly identified the outcome as being positive. False positive means it is actually negative, but wrongly predicted as positive. Okay. Here, there's something wrong here as well. So please take note. The description they gave also a bit out already. It should be true positive, number of positive cases that is predicted correctly. True negative, negative cases model predicted correctly. False positive is number of cases, negative cases that it is model predicted as positive. So these two should change place. Same like this one here. It should change place. Okay. So the author of this card also got confused because of confusion matrix. It should be the other way around. False positive is those which negative cases that is wrongly predicted as positive. So this should change place, just like this one. All right. So take note of that. Okay, take note of that thing inside here. So you need to know for different categories, what is the measurement that will be used, and what is the meaning of all the, what will be the meaning of all the measurements: accuracy, precision, recall, right? F1 score, false positive rate. Okay, all this will be the measurement to use to determine how effective is this algorithm. So accuracy is all those which has been rightly predicted divided by total number of predictions. Precision, how many is predicted correctly as positive divided by number of positive predictions. Recall, all those which have been predicted, okay, as positive divided by all those which are actually positive. Okay, right? So you need to look at in terms of the definitions, because all this is what you will use for the purpose of determining the effectiveness. So similarly, for each of the algorithms, you need to know how to detect the effectiveness. Okay, so this is for clustering. Clustering will look at in terms of number of points, what is the average distance, and so on to get the outcome. Then the next one you need to know is the difference between feature and label. What is feature? What is label? Okay, maybe you want to look at this. What is feature? What is label? So if I were to ask you, right? If I were to ask you to guess, okay, in terms of the regression scenario, which is the feature, which is the label? Okay, so you must always look at, okay, always remember this, prediction outcome. Prediction outcome is label. Whatever column values that we have used to come up with the prediction is feature. So if I want to determine the price of the house, I need to look at which area. What's the current price? What's the estimated increase? Right? What's the projected increase? All this to determine the future price. The future price is the label. all these different column values is the feature. And right? Okay. So how to remember this? Okay, just remember your face. Okay, remember your face. The label is your name. Okay, let's say you detect someone, you look at their feature, this eyes, this nose, this mouth, okay, these ears, or this person is called Ray. Okay, so I look at the features, I use different features to put a name on that particular person, which is the label. Can? Right? So to always remember that feature and label, you need to know what is feature, what is label, and you need to look at some of the common algorithm names that will be in use. Okay, common algorithm names that will be in use, some of which is defined here. Okay, one of the one that may confuse you is linear regression and logistic regression. So if you come across logistic regression is not regression. Okay, logistic regression is not regression. So this is a confusing factor. This is more of classification algorithm. The rest, the name is quite straightforward. When you see logistic regression, you may say this is regression. It is not. All right, and some can be used for both, like the decision forestry. Right, decision forest will be used for both. Can right, so got different algorithms. So you can see what type of algorithm is in use. This link is in the PDF document. This link is here in the PDF document, machine learning algorithm cheat sheet. So this will show you all the different algorithms that is in use. Okay, so far? Okay, if okay, just show the reaction. Okay, good. Right, so always remember how to see this. So basically, you look at what is linear regression and logistic regression. Okay, so basically, these algorithm names. Linear regression is like just now, where you have the house price, for example. You can detect how they are rightfully correlated. Logistic regression, although the name implies the name regression, it is not. It is not a regression algorithm. It is more of a classification algorithm. The name logistic regression is misleading. Okay, this is a regression algorithm. So, sorry, regression name is named algorithm, but it is used for classification. Okay, if you want to know more about these algorithms, you can actually go and refer to other documents out there about how these algorithms actually work. But in this case, you don't have to. Okay, you just have to remember the basic idea of how it works. We won't ask you in detail how to make it work. Okay, so what are the core tasks that you have? Data ingestion, right? Data preparation. You need to know this terminology called feature engineering and feature selection. Feature engineering and feature selection. Okay, so feature engineering basically refers to making some changes or extracting some content from the retrieved data. Okay, like for images, right? Let's say I'm reading an image. In order for me to interpret the image, I need to identify what is the color combinations. I need to know what is the boundary of that image. So all those are extracted features. Extracted features, so we call that as feature engineering. From music, I need to extract certain characteristics. So I need to do feature engineering. Okay, so you have featureization, which basically is the term used to identify or term used to identify all process of changes, related, okay, all process of changes related to the manipulation of your feature before doing the actual training. Like for example, normalization basically is referring to fine tuning the range. Instead of letting it go from very low range to high range, maybe we categorize it into a particular range. Okay, so normalization 0 to 1, we normalize it. Okay, so these are all called some additional featureization process. Right, so let's look at some questions pertaining to this usage. So I'm going to just show you some questions related to this. Okay, this one. For machine learning progress, how should you split your data for training and evaluation? Try and answer. Okay. Right. Let me just show you. So usually when we do any preparation of training, we will have training and evaluation data. Training and evaluation data. You look at this for a clue. Training and evaluation. How am I splitting it? Anybody want to change the answer? Okay. That's not the change expected. Okay. So it's supposed to divide the set by rows. Okay, divide the set by rows. So the closest answer for this one, I don't actually agree on randomly splitting, but that's the closest answer you have. Randomly split the data into rows for training and rows for evaluation. Okay, how about this one? This is pertaining to the model, right? What type of algorithm will use this confusion matrix? This is for classification, right? Okay, quickly look at this one. This is just for classification. Which one should I detect first? Predicted, isn't it? Predicted. So this is positive. This is negative. Positive and negative. Okay. This one same means true. Not the same means false. This one is true. This is false. Can so false. So this is true, positive, false, positive, false, negative, true, negative. Predicted, same as actual. Okay. Correctly predicted positive. Which one? Correctly predicted positive. Which value? Correctly predicted positive is true positive. This one. Predicted 1. Actual also 1. Okay. False negatives. Which one is false negatives? Okay, you can see this is predicted as negative, but actually is positive. So this value, false negative. You get the picture how to do? Yeah, okay. So always remember that. Okay, always remember how that particular thing works. Okay, answer question number 4. 3 questions we'll try. What's the answer? What do you think will be the answer? Feature engineering, right? So I just mentioned just now, feature engineering is used to derive additional values, additional features, so that we can use that for our predictions and so on. Okay, good. Any questions so far about the two modules? Okay, so in the interest of time, I'm just running through the main points. So later, I appreciate if you can go through more in detail this card and then attempt all the rest of the questions. Okay, so shall we move on to the next module, which will be natural language processing. Okay, natural language processing. So for this question or this scope of exam, you need to look at about 15 to 20%. The rest is all 15-20%. The highest one will be from the machine learning. 15 to 20% the rest. So for natural language processing, you need to know what are the available services. Okay, what are the available services that we're going to see? But before we look at this, I want to bring your attention to the earlier one, which is the computer vision. Okay, so the third module is actually computer vision. Okay, what you need to know about computer vision? All inside here. Okay, so computer vision consists of the 6 common usage. So you must know which is used for what purpose. Which of these is used for what purpose? Right, so you have image classification, object detection, semantic segmentation, image analysis, face detection, analysis and recognition, optical character recognition, OCR. So these are all the different use. What are pixels? Okay, let me show you, yeah, what is pixels and basically how does it use pixel. Right. Okay, so when we look at a particular picture, humans, we are able to see each of these objects and then try to deduce what is it. For a computer, it will break this down to pixels. Pixels basically is a single boundary within that space that will carry information about the colors in use, the combination of colors in use, so that it can use that information to identify the objects. So it will break this down into the color combinations, red, green, and blue. It will break down the image into pixels, and each pixel will be used to identify the color combinations of it, and it will use this information to do the classification, to do the object detection, to do the segmentation. Is that okay, Kausalya? Okay. Right? So basically, it will break it down to those different information. So most of the cases, what's going to happen here is it's going to recognize, okay, it's going to recognize what image, what is in that image. When you give it a particular image, you will be able to see what is going to be the outcome. And for this, I would suggest that you go to this AI demos at .microsoft.com to just get a rough idea of what is each one of that doing. Okay, analyze and describe images. I give it an image. It tells you what's inside that image. All right. So this is basically what you have in image. So you need to look at in terms of identifying or understanding what is in that image. Okay. So a lot of things can be done. For those who attended my session, you would have seen the demo which I show, in which I show you all the different detections. Okay, image analysis. So I give an image, it can detect what is it that it sees in that image. Okay, it can see and identify some landmarks. Okay, so even though you don't say anything, it's all pre-trained system. It can recognize this as Petronas Twin Tower. You give it an image. It can recognize who's the person inside there if they are famous. Like this one, Mark Zuckerberg, Dustin Moskovich, and Chris Hughes, founders of Facebook, original founders of it. Okay, and then you have image classification, how you can train the system with our own images in order for it to recognize. Then you have face analysis. Okay, the face analysis is where you will perform detection of faces and recognize an ID for that particular face and compare that perhaps with different emotions, find out if two faces are of the same person, recognize faces, associate the face with a particular ID. All these are things you can do with facial recognition. Then you have optical character recognition, where you can extract out text content from a given image. Extract out a text content from a given image. And then this is something that they will usually ask you about. That is the receipt of form recognizer. So what is the form recognizer and how is it going to be used? The form recognizer can be used to extract out content from a receipt. Okay, so you can use that to extract out content from a receipt. You can use it to do text analytics. This is for natural language processing. Okay, so these are all the different use cases So you need to know which is used for what purpose. So in this, they give you an example of computer vision, custom vision, form recognizer, video indexer. Okay, so all the different usage. You need to know those usage inside there. Okay, so let's look at some questions. We do have very limited time, so I'm just going to go straight to the questions. Okay. Returning a bounding box that indicates the location of a vehicle inside image. A bounding box. A bounding box. Okay, it's not recognizing characters, it's recognizing the bounding box. Okay, right, so this is object detection. Sorry, just give me a moment. Okay, right? So you have object detection. Okay, how about the second question? Okay, so this one, if you notice, it's looking at extracting data from a document, not just reading the content. You're not analyzing the data. You are capturing those details. So this is done with form recognizer. Okay. Question 4. What do you think will be the answer for question 4? Your own images, you need to train your product images. All right. Okay, so this one requires custom vision. Right? So we have a total of how many participants? 20 participants. But I only see 3 or 4 of you answering. So hopefully the rest will answer as well. Yeah, just try out and see. Okay, question 6, bonus question for you. Give 3 answers together. Identify celebrities. Extract movie title names. Locate vehicles. Okay, so first one is facial recognition. Second one is OCR. Third one is object detection. So 3 different workloads. Okay, right. So this is with vision. Next, we'll look at the use of custom. Sorry, we look at natural language processing. Okay, so natural language processing, always remember anything to do with voice, anything to do with voice, anything to do with the detection of character, the words, spoken words, or content of that words. Okay, all this requires natural language processing. Okay, and usually what they will test you on with regards to this is which service will be used for what purpose. Okay, so you need to familiarize yourself with the different services that is made available and what are the limitation of those services. Like for example, translator can only translate up to 70 different languages. I can detect sentiment. For sentiment analysis, I will use text analytics. Text analytics. And then you have language understanding, intelligence service, or LUIS, which is for understanding of commands. So if you want to familiarize yourself with all these different services, look at AI demos for text analytics. This is sentiment analysis. So it tells you whether it is negative, is it positive, is it neutral. By looking at the text content. Okay, so look at all the different examples in use. Yeah, different examples in use. So here you have natural language processing, okay, which makes use of text analytics, translated text, speech to text or text to speech, language understanding. These are all the 4 core services. 4 core services you will find being used. Okay, So you have this following usage of it: language detection, key phrase detection, sentiment analysis, entity recognition. So it can recognize what is the keyword that you're using, what is a name of a product maybe, a location maybe, and then relate that to a particular usage. Okay, so you need to familiarize yourself with what it can do in terms of analysis for speech to text or text to speech when you use which of these services. Okay, so you have few different services, huh? Speech to text, text to speech. Different services made available for use. And then you have the keywords that you need to understand. What is entity? What is intent? And what is utterance? Three keywords that you must remember, especially when you're using the language understanding. The language understanding. Okay, so entity is what you are mentioning in terms of a particular object. What is the intent? What's your intention of saying something? So when I say turn on light, in Asian speak, and turn on light, what do I mean? I want to turn on the light. Light is that entity. My intention is to turn on the light. To say, to do that, I'm telling, turn on the light. Light is the entity. My intention is to turn on the light. So I'm telling, please turn on the light. Okay. I can say in other languages also, buka lampu. Right? Right? Tutup lampu. So basically, when I say those things, why am I saying it? Utterance. What I'm saying is utterance. What is being referred to is the entity. Why I'm saying what I intend to do is the intention. Intent. Okay, so to demonstrate this from that AI demos, you will see the language understanding. So I can say, turn off kitchen light. So it turn off kitchen light. So it knows I'm referring to the kitchen. I want it to turn off. What I want it to turn off? I want it to turn off the light. So I'm saying that I want to cook. Let's say if we can detect. So it doesn't understand, okay? Turn on kitchen light. So it turns on the kitchen light. Because it understands I'm referring to a kitchen, I'm referring to an entity called light, and I want to turn it on. Okay, nah? So the words that I say is what makes up utterance. Okay, so you have your entity, intent, and utterance. You need to familiarize yourself with the different services available. Okay, let's have a look at the questions for this module. Okay, question 1. Try and answer. Okay, right. So it can detect from the heading or content of the file, email, to classify it as work related or personal. Okay. Number 2. It needs to interpret the meaning of call me back later. Okay, getting mixed answers here. A and B and D. I need to, like just now I say turn off light, right? It carries the meaning. Here I'm saying call me back later. I'm not asking to translate into another language. I am trying to have a service running that can understand when I say call me back later, it knows what I'm saying. So this requires language understanding. Okay, third one. Okay, so I see mostly answered B, except for Laura. One said as D. Okay, this one can be a bit misleading. Take note, the thing is they want to know the user's intention, user's intent. To make the dialogue, to create, they trick you by putting this one, right? To develop the chatbot solution, you need Q&A maker. That's true. But to understand what the person is uttering inside there or typing inside there, in the back end, you need language understanding. One more question. Press release in various languages. Okay, this is quite straightforward, right? You need some translation capabilities. Okay, all right. Let's go to the last module, which talks about conversation AI. Okay, the conversation AI basically is going to be used for the purpose of creating what is known as chatbot and enabling that chatbot agent to communicate with the users. In this case, the communication may be in terms of providing customer support, making it possible for you to work with different mediums in order to identify what needs to be done, okay, in response to a particular conversation. So to make this work, it's not going to only require the Q&A maker, which is the question and answer maker, that makes it possible for you to create the dialogue. But also in the back end, you may need search capability, you may need the language understanding to interpret the meanings so that you can work with it. So you have the Azure bot service. Okay, it will be used to deploy the service to the particular host where it is going to be using. You have that creation. Okay, you have those creations into which you can put this info. So it's not just the Q&A maker. You will use Q&A maker to create the question and answer, but at the back end, you need the information. Okay, information about what is the meaning of the utterance. So at the back end, you need to link with the Q&A, you need to link with the search capability, you need to find additional information. Okay, so you create the knowledge base for this purpose. So apart from that, generic question they may ask you about is the use of Azure Cognitive Services and what is called as API, the REST API, and how is it basically going to be used for the purpose of used for the purpose of connecting and retrieving data from those services. So in the example which I showed you just now, most of this communication takes place over the APIs, with the use of APIs. Okay, so when I need to call a particular API. I send the information over and get the response by means of communicating with that service. When I call the function, I'm sending the information over and I'll get the response. Okay, so this is with the content. Let us look at some questions and maybe later I'll open up for further questions from the floor. Let's look at the module 5 to look at the questions. Okay. We plan to develop a bot that will enable users to query a knowledge base using natural language processing. Which two services are required? A7B. Okay. A and B, right? A Q&A maker and Azure bot service. No worries, Sharon. So the answer for the first question is Q&A maker and Azure bot service. Two of these services are needed to create our Azure and deploy it. So you have these two, Q&A maker, Azure bot service. Okay. You have a frequently asked question, PDF. You need to create a conversational support system based on the frequently asked question. You need to create the knowledge base. So where do you create the knowledge base? Okay, so you'll use the Q&A maker for that purpose. Okay, now, okay. All right. Let's find something else. Okay, question 9. Okay, so it is conversational AI. Okay, right? So hopefully you have a clearer picture of how to prepare for your exam. And we are looking at in terms of these 5 areas. So please make full use of this Whiscard. Most of the things that you need to prepare for the exam is already inside here. Of course, with some errors here and there, like what I pointed out to you just now, the rest all seems to be okay. Okay, so you see it's color coded. And this is module 1, this is module 2, all those in blue. Module 3 is green. Module 4 is orange. Module 5 is red. All these are the areas that you need to touch on and to understand to attempt the exam. So you notice that most of the questions are not to say very tricky. As long as you know which services used for what purpose, you should be able to go through the exam. Only when you go to the second level, which is AI102, you will have some programming components inside there. Otherwise, it's mostly theoretical questions only for this one. So, as part of your preparation, hopefully you go through the Stanislas material. Okay, you can go through the slides that is given inside here. So, he has quite a number of slides prepared. Which describes each of these content more in detail. From the exam page itself, you will see below the exam description, the learning part for your Microsoft Learn. On your Microsoft Learn, for you to understand each of the topic area. Okay, so I advise you to go through that as well to try and understand each of those 5 objectives. Module 2. You mean module 3? Machine learning. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have another good 10 minutes. Maybe we can do that. Okay. Question 3, you build the machine learning model by using AML. You need to ensure it meets the transparency principle. Okay, what would be the answer for this transparency principle? Remember, when I say transparency, we are talking about explain. So there is an option to turn on explain model. Okay, so we are seeing question 4. Okay. Look at this one. This one is pertaining to the measurement. Just now I mentioned, different algorithms, different measurement. Okay, these three is meant for regression. This is for classification. Okay, all these three is meant for regression. Only the true positive rate, which is the recall, is meant for classification. Okay. Number 6. Okay, so from the Azure, right? From the Azure platform, when you use the pipeline, which are the two things that can be brought in, you can bring in data set, you can bring in a pipeline. Question 7. You need to break the data. Okay, so this will make use of split data for that purpose. There's a step called split data, which you can use. Number 8. The first one is regression. Second one, sort of grouping them together, right? Grouping them. So this is clustering. And then whether pass or fail, or complete or don't complete. That is classification. Okay. Okay, this one, examining the value of confusion matrix after you've done the evaluation. So what is this phase called? This is model evaluation. I take the date breakdown into month, day, and year. Deployment? No. This usually comes before training. Feature selection? No. Model training? No. I'm doing something to a value. I'm breaking down to get more minute details. What am I doing? Feature engineering. Feature engineering is the process of manipulating a data to make it suitable for use. So I can extract out extra information from the data. So what I'm doing is feature engineering. The last one. Last one, I'm choosing of all the features, I'm choosing these two features, temperature and weather. I'm doing feature selection. Okay, question 10. Those data values that I'm going to use to influence the prediction. Question 10, what will be the answer? Mhm. Okay, remember back how I show you how to remember. I see a person, I see their features. What's their eyes, their nose, their mouth, their ears. Then I put a label on that person. Okay, so the one that would influence the label, how do I recognize someone as who it is? I identify the features. Label is the outcome, the prediction. Dependent variable is a statistic term, which is, yes, it's available, but we're talking about that which would influence the prediction. So features, whichever ones that we choose as features. Okay, this one. This is regression. You've seen this before, right? Here. So you have the regression. So this is the chart that shows predicted versus true. So some of these got links, you can go and see. Okay, question 12. Question 12. Okay, so this will be regression. Question 13. To use as the feature, which if they change the question to label, what will be the answer? If they change the question to label, what will be the answer? The actual fare, isn't it? Okay. If label means we are talking about what you are predicting. This is what will be used to do the prediction feature. Question 14. Again, regression. Question 15. This is true. Okay, so automatically can infer the training data. For those who attended my session, you would have done the exercise, right? So you didn't have to choose anything. It did everything for you. Automated machine learning works by running multiple training iterations and ranked by the matrix. True. This one, automated machine learning enables you to specify a data set and will automatically understand which label to predict. Is that so? This one, no. This one, we need to say which one is the label. Question 16. This is classification. Will pay or won't pay? 17. Labeling is the process of tagging training data with known values. True. You should evaluate a model by using the same data used to train the model. No. If you use the same one, it will probably give you the same answer. So it will be 100%. Accuracy is always a primary matrix used to measure model performance, not necessarily. Okay, so yes, no, no. Okay. So I'll just finish up to question 19 there. Okay. You use Azure Learning Designer to publish an inference pipeline. Which two parameters is needed? To consume the pipeline. Question 18. Okay, this one is to consume. That means to get the prediction value. Training endpoint is when you're doing the training. This one is the REST endpoint and the authentication key. Okay, the last question for the day. To deploy real-time inference. Okay, so always remember for testing, during testing will be Azure Container Instance is okay. For deployment, we usually look at Azure Kubernetes Service. Okay, so that's the time that we have for today. Just remember, go through this Wizcard, try to test out the answers, try to prepare by going through these questions and then trying to get the rightful answers. Okay, refer back to the documentation, get the info, refer to the Stanislas site to get more information and access to the documentation from which you can get more information.
Yeah. Good luck to all of you, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Roy, again.
Okay, all the best, y'all. See you all around.